Welcome back. You're still watching the SABC's Prime News. Now, the Rohingya crisis is the world's fastest developing refugee emergency unfolding in southeastern Bangladesh. More than 500,000 people have fled intense violence in Myanmar's Rakhine province since August last year. According to a report by the United Nations Children's Fund, around 340,000 of those are children. Amnesty International this week blamed Myanmar security forces for the death of hundreds of Rohingya Muslims and have called for an arms embargo on the country. Well, joining us now on Skype is from Albania is a humanitarian activist at South African Imdaad Foundation, Qari Ziyaad Patel. He's just returned from Rakhine province in Myanmar. Thank you very much for joining us on the program. Perhaps if you could start by telling us what have you witnessed whilst you were in the Rakhine province and the refugee camps in Bangladesh?
Firstly, I want to thank everyone from the SABC team for allowing me to update our people back home as to what is happening down in Rohingya and especially on the border of Bangladesh and Burma. Firstly, the situation is appalling. It's very, very, very sad. In fact, I'm quite shocked at how such a calamity, a catastrophe, a humanitarian calamity missed the media radar for that long. It's been a long time. We find that the Rohingya people have been suffering for a very long time. Nevertheless, with all of that done, to visit the Naft River, and whilst we were there at the Naft River, even then too, we had seen many of the people coming across from Burma. Looking at the situation in the refugee camps, it's appalling. It's really appalling. We've been to those seem to be very much settled, very much organized. These refugee camps seem to be having a lot of chaos and so on. The situation is a stark reality that it is so horrendous, it is so difficult for in these refugee camps. But with all of that said, we also would like to acknowledge and congratulate the Bangladeshi authorities, and especially the Bangladeshi military, that have now somewhat brought some kind of, and now they're regulating and managing the refugee camps. And yes, we commend them for the good work that they're doing. But a lot of work still needs to be done in these refugee camps. And yes, I would say the need of the hour, besides food and hygiene right now, is shelter in these refugee camps.
Mr. Patel, with the media's attention on this plight of these refugees and what's going on in Myanmar, has the violence continued or has it abated because of the world's glare on the situation now?
I think that from a political perspective, yes, this is an ongoing story. I don't think Bangladesh do know what they're going to do or how they deal with this crisis. Whilst interacting with the authorities from day to day, things change around. Sometimes they say to you, okay, we will allow you now to construct a proper shelter, long-term shelter established. And then they say to you, no, maybe we just need to look at something a bit more shelter, which is for the immediate needs. So from time to time, the story does change. That indicates to us that they're still trying to find themselves situation. And I would say that in all the humanitarian situations, when the media gives coverage to this, then we find that the world responds. When the media hype is not there anymore, then we see stories. But we want to thank SABC in particular and all the other media houses out there for giving the continued support and highlighting the situation and highlighting the plight of the Rohingya people. I can assure you, we have seen now in Bangladesh, in these refugee camps, for a very long time. I don't think the world has seen such suffering. Nearly every single child is stark naked in these camps. It's literally skeleton and bone and flesh. That's about it. This indicates to us that people have been suffering down in Myanmar for a very long time. And unfortunately, these stories could not make it up.
All right. Unfortunately, Mr. Patel, we're going to have to leave that story for the time being. The line is so bad. But They're highlighting the desperate situation that the Rohingya people find themselves in. One of the camps that they're in Bangladesh, where hundreds of thousands have been forced out of Myanmar, being attacked, they say, by the Myanmar government authorities there, the army. Some people are even calling it ethnic cleansing because these are Rohingya Muslims, and in fact their plight has been going on for years and years. They're not even counted as citizens of Myanmar. All right, so that was humanitarian activist Qari Ziyaad Patel.